Hey friends, welcome to your full moon collective transmission. My name's Naomi with Sleepy House Healing. If you're brand new to my work, welcome. I love to do these for each month, and I like to also offer them on my Patreon for each moon phase. For the new and the full moon. So we have a full moon in Aquarius. This month I'm kind of condensing my August collective transmission and my full moon transmission, which means that my patrons are going to get an extra perk. And so if you're watching from Patreon, thank you so much. I will be posting about your extra perks soon. And if you like these, you can get more of this and a lot of tarot education and dream work related content on Patreon, also Sleepy House Healing. So let's get right into it. We just celebrated, if you celebrate Lammas, I just celebrate the harvest at this time. We are reaping what we have sown earlier in the year. And if you're going through a hard time, that might feel a little bit like punishment. And I totally don't mean it in that way. It's not even just the intentions, but it's also like the actions that we did earlier this year. We're seeing kind of, it's just cause and effect. It's not about blame. What we thought we wanted in January may be radically different than what we want or the path we're on now. So we're reaping what we've sown, but that doesn't necessarily mean that things are easy. I think for most people it's really difficult. We're also dealing with the consequences of people in power and power structures and the seeds that have been sown kind of without our consent. So I don't ever want to fall into saying that like we just create our reality. Like, yeah, to an extent we do. But we have to also acknowledge that there are power structures in place that we did not really opt into. So with that said, we're hopefully, I'm seeing just with the cards that I have pulled. I pulled a few beforehand. I may pull more as the medicine comes through. But the full moon is in Aquarius, and I'm not an astrologer, which I say in almost every one of these videos, but I cultivate my own astro awareness. And what I love about Aquarius as a sign, as an energy, the people I know that have strong Aquarius placements, it's almost like that they're a little bit detached. And I mean that I think that that's a good thing in a lot of cases where they can kind of like see a bigger picture or sense that there's a higher order in things. And so one thing I'm also noticing with a lot of the cards that I have pulled, particularly the Ten of Wands and the Fool reversed, I'm feeling or seeing that we all collectively in our own lives and just in general may see that there's a higher order of things that we weren't privy to. And it doesn't mean we know what to do next. It doesn't mean that like, oh, we just walk through this next door, or, oh, we just, here's the next step. I don't think that that's clear. I think for most people that's very unclear, and I'll get into why. But I'm just seeing that at least now we know either yes, it's time to change direction, or no, I'm on the right path, but maybe newer obstacles like struggles are coming up. So I mean, I'm here with you. We're in this together. This has been a reoccurring card, the Oracle, the Crystal Oracle, the Quantum Quattro, which I don't have this stone in my little mini collection of stones, but it's the 12. And like I said, it might have been the last collective reading here, or maybe the one before, but the 12, it's the Hanged One. And again, I mean, in 2019, that was our collective card of the year. That was, when you add up, the digits, we got 12, and I just am still feeling it, you know. I think that so much of what happened last year, and this is always true, it influences this year, but I think that the effects are being felt at this time in particular, more so than they did even like a month or two ago. So if that makes sense. So when I say, that we're harvesting or we're reaping what we sowed in January, I think it may even go further back than that. And we're being asked, I believe there's this invitation to kind of revisit, like, this time last year, what was happening? What was I doing? I had this really great harvest, you know, like Leo season party. And I had a couple of friends over and it was really great. And we had a lot of food and I just felt so at home. And then this year, as you know, the reality is I can't have a party. I'm not even friends with some of those people anymore for various reasons. I'm not even planning to stay in this town that I have created a life in. So things change, right? And the Hanged One forces us to sit in discomfort. And yes, this is not the Hanged One. This is just the number association, but it just stands out to me because that came before, and then still we are in this kind of suspended state where we are still getting information for what our next step is, or what, in the last collective reading, I do know that we came with the energy of the death card. Something is dying or already dead, and we're just now acknowledging that, like, yeah, I've been dragging around this dead thing, and it's time to, let it go. And so I think the message here too is that if it doesn't feel like you're moving forward, if it doesn't feel like progress is happening, I think that's just not true. There's a lot of internal things happening. There's a lot of information that you're processing. So if it feels like you're sitting still, that doesn't mean you're not doing anything, right? It's kind of like when you look at a little newborn baby, and it's like, it's just kind of like this potato. It's just sitting there. It's not doing anything, but that's not true. A baby is getting, right, going back to the Fool card, right? The baby, this is us, being the little newborn baby, getting information from the light, the sounds, the feeling of the bed under the baby's back, right? Like, we're getting all of that information, and all of that is informing our next step. And so I think also the reason that the Fool came here as a reversal, it could be that there's a suspended time for this. It's going to take a minute, right? We're still receiving our instructions, right? We're still receiving our options, our choices that we have. We know that something has to go, or we have to move, or there's, something's got to give. But if you're feeling stagnant, I really think that there's a reason that you're not yet able to just leap to the next lily pad. There's a lesson here in the suspension. So here we are. All right. The next card that I wanted to talk about that I had pulled, we got the Five of Swords and the Ace of Swords. So we also got the Ace of Wands reversed. So two aces. Again, seeing two aces, this more, I think of it as that new moon energy, that new leaf, like the Fool energy, right? Or magician, you could say, since that's, key one. Taking the first steps. And I believe, again, we just aren't sure yet how we're going to use our wand, how we're going to extend into the next phase. We know what's not working about this one. We can identify all of that. And there's been this beautiful seed planted of communication and understanding, and I think confronting our stories, right? We're in this transitional energy. I know it isn't just me. I know it isn't, because I've talked to, everybody I know has this transitional period of, whether it's from, work or relationships or just the general, state of our, the world. there's a transitional energy, and when we have transitions, we have this opportunity to reflect. We have this opportunity to say, when I start over, whatever that means, right? When I'm, picking up my sword, what stories am I carrying with me, and which ones am I going to rewrite? That does not mean you hop on a plane, you move to another country, not that we could even do that if you're in the US right now, and you come up with a whole new identity, and you just try to erase whatever problems you had wherever you were. I've tried to do that. I think a lot of people who've had the ability have tried to do that. But that doesn't really heal anything. Wherever you go, you still have yourself. I hate to tell you. But also, that's a good thing, right? We still have to confront those stories. They don't define you. Our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, it feels like they're true. And they are real, and I say it all the time, but they're not necessarily true. It's very easy to let other people, even if you just are the most badass bitch from hell and you don't let anybody fuck with you, right? I feel like I'm that person a lot. Like I just do what I want. Like I don't let other people bother me, blah, blah. I deeply care what people think. And on some level, I think most people care, right? And even if you genuinely don't, other people's stories still get stuck to you because we have a lifetime of conditioning that got us to where we are. And even if we don't have someone directly telling you a story about yourself, we do have other, messages out there. Even if you're watching this, you're like getting a message, right? If you're on your phone or on your computer, I'm not even just talking about ads. I just mean like the mental, like the static that comes from other people. And so I'm inviting you back into your power to decide, is that true about other human beings or myself or that person? Or are they speaking from scarcity? Are they speaking from, insecurity? Or are they also just deep into conditioning and overwhelm and or do they even believe what they're saying, right? I kind of think about just kind of going back to the little baby, right? Back to being a kid, where it's like the adults around you, they might say something sarcastic or something is a joke, or they just say something in passing without thinking about it. And another adult would just be like, whatever, no big deal. It just rolls off like we do. But a child, especially a child who looks up to and respects that adult, they do not, they really internalize that. And I think sensitive people, and I am one, on some level, I do think we have to work harder not to internalize. Not that we're like children, but I really don't think it's shameful to be childlike. I don't think it's shameful to be sensitive. I don't think it's a bad thing to take people at their word. And so as much as sarcasm can be funny and, a coping mechanism for a lot of us, there is something, I do think there's an invitation here to get really real with yourself and really real with the other people in your life for this next phase, because, for where you are right now in this hanged one state, because how do you really even know what you want if you are just continuously, I think that the way we communicate with others is sometimes how we will communicate with ourselves. The separation between, the line it's blurrier and blurrier, right? Have you ever heard somebody say a word that kind of annoyed you, or a phrase, and so you started saying it as a joke, and then before you know it, you're one for me was same difference. Silly, right? But I didn't like how that sounded, same difference, ugh, or moreover, ugh, I don't like that. I don't know why. But then I caught myself, I started saying it. It kind of absorbed in there where I was joking, but then I started saying it for real because it was just, part of my habits, part of my patterns. And so again, we have this opportunity to get really real with ourselves, say what we mean, consider, what do I mean? What do I want? What do I need? What am I trying to do? What is going forward for me? Is it going along this path that is safe, that seems correct, that seems easiest, that seems like it's going to make the least amount of waves. And maybe it is genuinely and great, good for you. I think a lot of times the hardest thing is the thing that you're supposed to do. I should let go of that, right? Let's let go of that. But I think the hard thing, the inconvenient thing, a lot of times can be the most nourishing thing. And this is how intuition can get all jumbled up with, desire, right? You may desire, I don't know, to go shopping, to, text this person back, whatever, to fall into a habit that you've defined for yourself that's unhealthy, right? There's nothing wrong inherently with shopping, with, indulging in certain things. But if you've noticed that you have a pattern, it's so much easier to go back right into it, right? So the hard thing that we will deny ourselves is to be like, I'm going to set a boundary with myself and with other people and wield my sword accordingly. And I feel you with this transition of confronting stories. I really do think, though, that in doing so, just seeing these two aces together just tells me there's this invitation to transform. And I think as much as it can be really difficult for a lot of us to start communicating, I want to say from the heart, but also just very directly, non-violent, but directly, to plant those seeds and watch them grow. It is hard work, but I think what's even more difficult is to honor our knowing, right? To root down into not what we have been told is good for us, but what we have discovered through action, through trial and error, through experimentation, that is actually good and bad is like not even going to cover it, right? But that's actually nourishing for us. That's actually where our power lives, right? Where does your power live? It's not just rebelling for the sake of rebelling. And that's, I think, where we can get caught up, right? This is harder, right? To decide. Or it's not even a decision, it's really to discover, like, where am I gaining my, my energy to move forward, my life force, my excitement, my magic, right? It's hard to know when other people are trying to sell you magic or sell you, theirs and say that I have the answers. I have the stuff you need. Sure, I think I'm right about a lot of things. But with my clients, with, the people I read for in general, I don't want to spoon feed people answers because I don't think they mean anything. Really, it's about getting in touch with yourself. I can pull a card for someone and it doesn't resonate, and that's information. And then they have the power, right? Ace of Swords style. No, that doesn't work for me. Okay, that's information. That's not, I think, expecting any outside source to be an easy answer, or this is what will happen just because we want that, like, neat answer, right? Like a Scantron. It's just never like that. It really isn't. And I think soul searching is it's almost, again, like a weak term for what you have to do. It's not just listening. It's not just like thinking, right, with your brain. It's also experimenting, which is fucking scary. So I'm with you. We're here. And so I also pulled I want to pull a card for my mind is moving quicker than my mouth, but I want to pull a card for the Aquarius folks, as it is the Aquarius new moon or full moon. And I also wanted to pull a card for Leo, as I meant to do in our last collective reading. It wasn't technically Leo season, but as we were coming in, let's go with Leo first. And the Aquarius. 2 reversals. I promise I shuffled. They're both majors. I guess that makes sense. There's a reason that we have those big transitional energies. So for Leo, I'm going to start with y'all. As I said, the Tower reversed. Okay. I think it's already fallen, and you're here, right? Looking around in the rubble of what you thought your life was, or what you thought your reality was, and you are now deciding, or maybe not deciding, but sensing into what is going to be built in its place. You're cleaning up. You're figuring it out. And maybe there are still aspects to wrap up, to clear, before you can start rebuilding. Just getting this message too, that, pulled another for you. It's time. So I think that there's a space here to rest. I know when you see the Tower, you're not going to just think of rest most of the time. But that's kind of a message that I'm getting for just everyone, is that right now resting is really hard. It always is, but it's I don't know if it's the time of the season in conjunction with the fact that there's a lot of unrest and unknowns. I mean, there always are, but as far as power structure wise, there's a lot of unknowns, and it can be on the nervous system especially. It can be really hard to slow down, to rest, to realize, there's all this work to do. We're doing it. But the way that we sustain that is to realize, sure, there's only a certain amount of time before, action must be taken. But if you're doing, your daily actions, you're doing the best that you can, reaching out, organizing, all the things that we collectively are doing and on a personal level we're doing, there's also time in there to rest, and that's how we're going to sustain it. So Leo, it's your season. And I want to give you something really sweet and fluffy, happy birthday, you lion cuties. But I mean, happy birthday. And also, what a way to start anew. As you're starting anew, do so with rest built in. It's something I actually learned. I have this amazing friend, life coach, who her name is Jane, by the way, from Tertiary Site in Nashville. Anyway, she was telling me in my business, this is something I still need to practice that I do not practice, but that in my business, I have to build in time to rest, build in breaks, build in, practices like body scans, so that as I'm building my business, I don't just get burnt out and fall apart. Which, when she told me that, I was so excited to offer tarot and medicine and reach people with my dream work. I was so hyped that I was I couldn't even fully imagine burning out and wanting to quit. Some months have passed, lots of shit has happened, and I understand now why rest needs to be built into your business model. Because if I don't schedule it, and this is true for a lot of people who are really pushing, trying to get their work out there. And creative people in general, right? Artists and just anyone who works for themselves. You don't want to rest. You don't want to lose momentum, right? And I get a sense that that is happening, collectively with the movements that are happening in the U.S. and other parts of the world. I'm just privy to the U.S. because this is where I live. But also on a personal level, I don't think this is just about work and, the collective contraction, expansion spiral that we're in, right? I think there's more to it, and we have to rest. And there's many types of rest. There's actual sleep. There's, being away from your responsibilities as rest. There is play without a time limit. There's so many ways to do that, and it's still so hard to actually do it. Like, how? I'm still learning and figuring it out, so I can't tell you how, but I know I'm in the same boat with you. I'm a Leo moon myself. Oh, I just remembered, this personal note, it's my Jupiter day. As I said, I'm not an astrologer, but yeah, it's my Jupiter day. It's a full moon. Yeah, interesting. Okay. For my Aquarius, folks, we got the Wheel of Fortune reversed. So, this card, I mean, the wheel in general, I think the reversed and upright, it almost looks the same. It's like, it feels chaotic to me. And I know that other people don't necessarily see it that way. I just envision within this card, I almost can envision myself at like where I am, right, in the present. And there's all these future, like, choose your own adventure kind of places, right? These pages you could flip to. And as a reversal in particular, I just think that there's a sense of indecision here. But you really can't fuck it up. That's the thing. Like, you can't. But here's the thing that's coming through. Not moving is also a decision. So, what I'm getting from my Aquarius loves, it's really that it doesn't mean don't rest, right? Like I was saying, it doesn't mean jump without thinking, but I do think following your fire, following your passion, following the scary thing. Sometimes the stuff that comes through, it's like, I know it's not my brain because this is not what Naomi would say. This is not what my Capricorn ass would tell anybody. Do the scary thing. It's hard, right? It doesn't mean just jump without looking. But I do think that there's an invitation to jump. And that there's support on the other side. You're going to be caught. Yeah. You've got a lot. I just get a sense there's a lot of guardians just waiting to kind of, cushion your fall. And maybe you will fall. I'm not saying you're not going to stub your toe. That metaphor's not going anywhere, but all right. Just want to pull one card for just a little energy forecast for, the moon, the cycle ahead. Let's pull it from the Mountain Dream Tarot by B. Nettles, one of my absolute favorites. And again, this is just for everyone. What is the medicine we need? All right. Our old friend, the devil. Where do you need to be liberated? Where are you still working on your liberation? Where do you feel that you are still being chained to? Again, story, conditioning, fear, shame, all of these things that have been put into your head, put into your spirit, that you're not born with shame. You're not born with fear either. The innate things that we have laughter, we have tears, We have screams, right? Like we can communicate. And then all this other stuff gets put in because other people have done that to the people who are doing it to us. It's not even that they're doing it like on purpose. They're not doing it because they want to traumatize you or anyone most of the time, right? They think it's safer. They think, depending where you live and what your experience is here, they're going to save you from the hellfire, right? They're going to save you from the big, scary whatever if they, if they keep you in line, keep you quiet, keep you, in a box in a lot of ways. And so if you're an adult, that's still present. It is. It's maybe not on the surface where you can see it. Like I said, you might be a badass bitch and you think nobody can fuck with you, and that is still absolutely true. But there's still an undoing happening right now. It may not be from parents. It may not be from, school. It might be much more insidious and subtle. It might be other close relationships. It might be really good friends who don't even know that they're doing what they're doing. And so here we are in this, I would say, this course with the devil, which is like, this is the scariest card in the deck. I know some people think it's the Tower, but coming from like a Christian Southern upbringing, this is the card that's scary to me. And why? I've been interrogating that, investigating, I don't really believe in the devil, so why is that so scary? I logically know where the imagery and the lore of hell and the devil, like most of that comes from, which is not the Bible, which I've read the entire Bible, by the way, Southern kid, status. But even knowing all that, well, there's like still a little bit of like, what is that? Why do I like bristle? What is it that's making you bristle? I'm not saying it's the devil. I think it's something else, right? I think maybe it is that, but maybe it's something more for you too. What's on the other side when we, again, not bury it or bypass it, but when we move through that and say, yeah, I do feel, the pull of shame. I think when we start getting like spiritually minded and, start following the holistic psychologist and like trying to really like elevate, which is all great. I mean, I'm here, right? It can be really easy to just start being like, oh, I don't believe this in these old stories that were like oppressive, and I'm like too good for it, and I'm not even going to engage with it because like, it's easy to do that, but does that really heal you if you can't like feel it, right? Hanged one style. If you can't really sit in that discomfort of like, I do feel these things and I feel like silly for feeling them sometimes. And I think this can also like come up with, people that menstruate. For example, that's one that comes to mind when I'm thinking about like biblical things. I was talking the other day with, it might have been my partner about, like what we were told as far as like periods, blame Eve, whatever, right? Even knowing that, even not having a shamey kind of experience when I first got my menstrual cycle, there's still that element of like, that monthly reminder of shame if you're a menstruating person. So, and this obviously it gets even more complicated if you are not, if you don't align with the gender that you were assigned at birth, right? That's true for so many of us. So what we're moving into is that masterclass with the devil. I'm just feeling inclined to pull a card and ask, how can we cope with that, with sitting in that discomfort in a healthy way? How can we weather the storm without getting, without bypassing anything, and without just like letting it rule the entire month, right? Because I don't want you to, of course, dwell on it and think that that's the only thing happening. There's so much that needs our attention at this moment, and we don't really even have the time, most of us. Okay. So, the way that we weather the storm with the devil, connecting in with our dreams, with our possibilities. I do think, like, as a dream worker, when we're dreaming, you get this really pure, unfiltered experience. I'm not saying that you're like programming doesn't play a role when we're dreaming, but everything comes through such a filter in waking life. And we have to really work hard to kind of break down our ego in a way, right? So that we can really receive. But in dreams, that's not the case. In dreams, we can get, I think there's medicine in all dreams, which is controversial especially if you were someone who has like sleep paralysis and nightmares. That's how I got into this work. So like, trust me, I understand how terrifying that shit is. But there's always a reason for it, and it's not because we're bad. That's never it. It's not a punishment, right? But it's information. So connecting in with the dream realm, and I think this also goes with like daydreaming. So kind of going back to like ways that we can rest. I believe that daydreaming, whoever allows themselves that luxury, it's one of the easier ways to kind of rest. And when I say daydream, I don't mean like overthinking about the future and like ruminating or spiraling, but really like letting the dreams flow and come through. It takes practice. So I think practicing daydreaming might be the medicine, or maybe you're someone with a really active dream healing practice already, and you can, do what I do, which is just like hop into dreams and explore and, go lucid and fuck around, or put yourself in a place of receiving. Sometimes I don't have as much control with lucidity, and then sometimes I do, and I'm like, I'm not gonna work right now. I don't want to create this reality. Like, I just want it to happen. So if you're not there yet in your dream work practice, like you will probably get there. Like, don't think that I just suddenly did that. It's been my lifelong kind of practice. So connecting in with our dream spaces, both in our waking life and at night, and also just pulled some other ways to handle and to delve in with the devil, to dance with the devil. I'm just like, I don't know why, but now I do know why, I guess, but this 9 of Cups figure, I'm thinking of like that song, The Devil Went Down to Georgia. I guess I'm thinking of that because I did a dance to that in school, like a tap dance number, like Dancing with the Devil is what I'm thinking of. And it's like, wow, what could we get from an experience like that, right? Like, what is the devil in your life? Like, what is your demon? Which again reminds me of another song that the Fleetwood Mac song that's like, my little demon, da 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 da. And I remember like being a kid and thinking about like, what would my little personal demon look like? Would he like fit in my pocket? Like, anyway, all that to say, right? I'm imagining now the devil and you, whatever your devil may be, right? Dancing under the moonlight. Like, why is that devil here? And I'm going to use I'm going to put some warnings on this video before I post it, but I'm going to use alcohol as the demon, just because that is one, that I think many people can relate to. And this is, again, not to shame anyone, but the devil card can mean addiction. It can talk about like your personal demons. And when we really like flow through an addictive cycle and like beat it, right? I say beat it, but when we say, yeah, I could fall back into that, but I'm not, there's just so much power in that, right? That's really where you realize like how powerful you are and how many possibilities there are. Like that's the liberation. Gotta chill. That's the liberation when you can put down the thing that is, you know, that you're using to cope, that's really not serving your highest and best. It's not actually leading you anywhere. It's kind of keeping you in the same pattern. So again, I guess I didn't have to say anything about, you know, substances, but that's just what comes to mind because it's a tangible thing, right? For me, just like alcohol isn't inherently bad. Like for me, it's like gluten and white sugar. I can't do it. It will hurt me, but it is delicious. And I can look and be like, yeah, I really want that, but I'm not going to do it. And I feel so much better, as hard as that is. But at the same time, like pastries are medicinal. And it's like, don't think for a minute that I'm anti-pastry. I literally just cannot do it. So we have that 9 of Cups reversed, and we have the Moon. Again, coming back to the cycles, menstruation. I just have that on my mind. And how just thinking about when we can finally, and again, I'll say move past, but I really mean like move through that addictive cycle, when we really do like liberate ourselves from shame and all the, you know, the chains of the devil of our, you know, in our life, whatever they may be, when we can identify and really like break them. I think that is when we find our flow. It's when we can really tap into our intuition. We can really like get familiar with ourselves and see through the illusion, right? See through the illusions of comfort, the illusion of like, oh, I know what's coming next. Like, no, you don't. Like, we never do. We never did. But it's like, it's easier to be okay with it when we don't have that veil of the devil, right? That veil of like false security and comfort in, you know, our pattern. And I think too, it's like when I see this 9 of Cups, I'm really not seeing it as like, I don't see reversals as opposites, but I do see that it's like, you can pour in so much hustle and so much energy and so much work, but if we're still hanging on, if we still have those chains and like, or we just can't identify what they are, like I was saying, it won't get you there. But I do think that there's that opportunity, right? That we're able to now name and bust all that shit up and move forward, right? So here's our coping. Following our cycle, finding our flow as we liberate ourselves and realizing what's on the other side, right? You are what's on the other side, right? Your truest, youest you. Your most genuine, you know, it's like I keep thinking, and this phrase has occurred to me here lately, but it's coming to me again. It's like, I'm not even at my final form yet. That's I know that's all of us all the time, but when we're doing the hard shit that's like not convenient, that's really difficult, when you get to the edge of yourself, that's really when we figure out who the fuck we are. And so that's really how we find our flow, our moon, right? I'm thinking of like our moon sign and how that's like the, you know, our sun sign being like what we project to the world. But our moon sign is like, it's your rich inner world, like what's there, right? How do we get in touch with that? Well, removing illusions, removing, like, I think of alcohol, because under the haze of alcohol, for me, speaking purely for myself, my concept of who I really am and my reality, it's not clear. And that's, part of that is an addictive tendency that I have, but it's also just, the nature of alcohol. And I have a hard time just having a drink. Like, I want to just keep drinking because it feels good. It works. It fucking works, right? And so I have to really be careful or not do it. And not doing it is really how I figure out, like, oh, this is what I actually think, right? Like, what's your message without a sarcastic filter? Like, who are you actually without this job that you think you have to do, or this set pathway that you have, just never seen a way out of? Who are you without that? And can you put yourself in a space where you can figure that out? Some people can't, but I think that you can. So if you're watching this, you can. There is wiggle room somewhere. Not saying it's easy. We are confronting stories that we have, at some point we did consent to them and say, yeah, I guess that applies to me. So-and-so said it. Somewhere along the line, we're like, okay, I guess that's true for me too. Did we consent to it in the beginning? Probably not. It's just something that happens over time. But anyway, it's probably my longest monthly/full moon reading ever. But I hope that you got something out of it. Maybe that's my cue. Hear an ambulance. But have a great rest of your night. Thanks for your patience. I'm doing it like right as the moon is getting full and or peaking rather, and I will be stepping outside, having a look at the moon, which is something I do every full moon. I go and I try to receive, I just, or not try, but I just listen and see what comes through. And especially now in this transitional time, you have a couple of days to do this. You don't have to only do it at the full moon, but I strongly encourage you, if you can see the moon from where you are, even if it's like from a window, listen, because I think that there are things that need to be said that are going to come through. So love you much. Find me on Patreon or Instagram, Sleepy House Healing. I'm on Facebook as well at Sleepy House Tarot. I do have a tarot mentorship coming up, not until October, but if you're interested, finding me on any of those platforms, you'll get more info on how to join that. It's going to be a 9-month long thing. I'm really excited. It's going to be just a small group, a small circle, and it's going to be called Home on the Moon. And I'm just so excited to share my practice, and create this really sweet core group, this intimate group of probably 10 or fewer. I just can't wait. So anyway, happy full moon. Bye.